Welcome to the Ecom 80/20 podcast, the show for brands looking to compete and win at selling online by building better customer relationships. I'm your host, Isaac Hyman, featured speaker and author of the Ultimate E-commerce Email and SMS Playbook, and founder of Highflyer Digital, the marketing agency for the fastest growing e-commerce brands in the world. On each episode, I reveal, unpack, and demystify the secret strategies that the top 1% use to acquire, convert, and retain customers better. My mission is to help you level the playing field and give you the tools to build more profitable revenue streams for your business. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ecom 80/20 podcast. Super excited to have you guys here. It is the start of spring. We're entering a new season now. The flowers are blooming, the plants are growing, you name it. And it is a perfect time to talk about e-commerce because Q1 was generally, for many e-commerce brands, you heard recession news and struggles and challenges out there. So really excited to take another quarter to say, what can we do well? What can we do better? How can we improve and really get the year out on the right track and hit our goals for the year? That's really what our plan is here. As always, I highly recommend you go to highflyerdigital.com/playbook to get our free email and SMS playbook here, 330-page book that will help you level up your e-commerce strategy and just unlock the lifetime value and the true potential of your customer list. So what we want to talk about today is related to unlocking the value of your customer list. We have challenges out there. A lot of the e-commerce brands have major challenges in terms of acquiring new customers that they can turn into lifetime buyers. Everyone wants a better customer in their door, and they don't want those customers to leave, right? Many times, and my guest Aron will talk about in a second once I tee him up, many times brands have a customer that will come in the front door and then leave out the back door just as fast. And that is a struggle. If you're an e-commerce brand trying to scale this year, keeping customers loyal is so important to you, but winning the right type of customers is probably even more important. So on our webinar today, we're going to be talking about PMax versus Google Shopping, how to attract more visitors, convert them into customers, and build out their customer lifetime value and make them profitable, predictable, sustainable overall. I'm joined today by one of the smartest people I've met in the Google ad space. That's Aron Nam. Aron Nam has run the paid strategies for Walmart, B&H Photo, GoGoTech, and other top e-commerce and DTC brands. He's been responsible for about 50 plus e-commerce brands, probably even more by now, thousands and thousands of products, and managed the analytics, brand performance, and marketing strategy from manufacturer to end consumer. Aron was instrumental in developing marketing strategies to elevate revenue and profit for the brands he oversaw and became really the go-to expert for all paid media growth and acquisition efforts. Currently, he's also the co-founder of Namster Marketing and helps brands reach new customers with Google, Amazon, Facebook advertising, and really any paid media strategy overall. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Aron. Tell us a little bit more about your background. Tell us a little bit more about yourself right now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the intro. I mean, it's very flattering to hear all that all in one place.
You earned it.
Thank you. I mean, yeah. So, I've been doing e-commerce and e-commerce marketing for 12 plus years now. I mean, since the start of the inception of some platforms, I was already on there, yeah, I mean, I've been working with brands, manufacturers, for retailers, and the gambit, right? Going even from beauty supply wholesalers to power tool manufacturers, to electronics, everything, even the little electronics, earbuds when they first hit the scene, back in the day. I was working with manufacturers on that. Yeah. I mean, the great part about e-commerce, and actually the great part about where we are in this space right now, is that it's still the rags to riches story is still possible, right? I feel like that's it's very hard to say that about a lot of industries, but for e-commerce, it definitely still exists. it's still there. It's still possible. I'm in fact like I had calls with two separate clients or potential clients. Hopefully they'll join on. That I mean they have a very niche product for a very niche demographic, and they have relative success, and now they're about to scale. So I mean that's what Knobster marketing is about. Like that's and I'm sure like that's what Highflyer is about too, right? We're about taking especially for me, it's about really helping the underdog achieve when in this like world of like giants, right? Like that's where I find like the most value and also the most promising. Like I'm not saying I won't work with big brands, um, but I generally tend to enjoy the opposite, the underdog, the good fight, to kind of overthrow those big brands. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, I would say like as of right now, I have about 30 plus clients within Nomster Marketing, and they're all different levels. And I know like there are a lot of referrals, so I couldn't really like niche and kind of being like, okay, these are the type of customers I kind of want. I couldn't do that because these referrals were just coming in, right? And then it would be from, I mean, one person was he did pet accessories. He referred me to someone who does skincare. I'm like, you guys have like nothing. There's like no correlation there between the two. But because I have such core knowledge, like it doesn't matter. It's very how to say, it's replicable across the board. But it kind of makes it harder for me to nail down one specific like category, which I want to do. But I mean, the one that I'm focusing on right now is roofers, like roofers, contractors. It's something like I enjoy like talking to like working class people. I feel like it's like just more,
Yeah.
it's more enjoyable, and it's more I don't know. There's something I like about it. So especially in the conversations. So I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I am.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think we're very much aligned on that in the same wavelength as, we both came from some of the top 1% of e-commerce brands specifically, and we're bringing the strategies from the top guys to the small guys, help the underdog achieve, level the playing field, help them compete to win, because that's just something that it's just a good feeling to see the small brand compete with the top brand, and they can. I think there's a magic, like exactly what you're saying. There's a magic behind every single brand out there, and we want to bring it to the top. And that's interesting because we met when we were both at B&H as a client, and we were working with them on their marketing strategy. And we all know B&H is a big brand. We were talking a 10-figure brand right there, and there's just something huge. They have a big strategy. So, in your words, what are the top brands doing right now? What's that one thing that the top brands are doing, or their mindset, or their mentality, or their actions that the small guys should be doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing with big brands, there's a lot of moving parts, right? It's just all over the place. So like, I would say they are casting. I mean, but this is with the caveat that they have the budget and they have the resources to do this, but they're casting a very wide net, right? And that, I mean, in the scope of it's like difference between the scale is like this. They're throwing bazookas, right? Or they're throwing grenades and they're shooting off bazookas, and they're doing aerial strikes, whereas the smaller guys are, I mean, it's more like a sniper rifle approach, right? Because you don't want if the pie is out of this nice big e-commerce pie, um, this they when it comes to a big retailer or big brand, they want to get as much share of that pie as possible, right? Regardless of and they're concentrating on big pieces of it. So they want that the core with all the jelly filling, right? All the blueberry jelly filling. They're looking for the crust all around, right? What smaller retailers are focusing on, and it makes sense, is that small sliver, maybe some crumbs, right? If we're using that same analogy. But what the big brands are doing is, I mean, they are focusing in on their customers, right? That's number one. They're attacking it on that side. and also they're going for scale. So it's very oxymoronic because it's like, all right, so you're doing big and small at the same time. But that's why I come to the point of scale, like
Yep.
of their scale. They're just big enough. They could just do all of that. They have thousands of, if not tens of thousands of people on staff to kind of do all of this. I would say for a smaller brand, like this is what my approach would be, and it's kind of, again, it might be a little ass backwards, but
That's okay.
I would say just throw as many pebbles as possible, and then pick the one that makes the most splash, and then drill in from there. Right? Like, why did this pebble make a big splash, whereas all the other ones didn't? And then um, analyze, repeat until that splash is completely yours. Then move on to the next thing, and then keep doing it over and over. And it really hones into that. It's kind of like disrupt the market, see what you're good at, refine. Disrupt the market, see what you're good at, refine.
Definitely that test, learn, refine, constantly test, iterate, refine kind of methodology is just so critical these days for brands to kind of get to that next level. And I feel like, and I'll raise it on a few follow-up questions as well. I feel everyone's jumping after the next shiny new object, TikTok ads, Amazon ads, Chat GPT. Everyone's jumping to the next object without refining exactly where they should be, where they could be best at. And it's funny you mentioned that. That's how the Warby Parkers, the Caspers, all of them kind of scale to the next level. They took a slice off of the eyeglass market and said, we're going to perfect that. Or Bonobos focused on a certain type of customer out of the entire men's apparel community. So that's the digitally native vertical brands approach, and it's worked out for them. So probably you're absolutely right in what you're saying.
Yeah,
Definitely seen that.
Even if we talk about, if we go back even a little further, when it comes to like retail media, or just like in general, like marketplace platforms, right? I don't know if you remember Jet.com. You remember
Sure.
Jet? So, his whole thing was about the CEO. The whole thing is about like, let's get loss leaders, and then let's try to like eat up as much space of that as possible. And then they got acquired by Walmart, right? So like, there are always, as long as you are refining what you do, there's always an avenue for either revenue or a major payout, when it comes to Jet, right? So like, just keep going. Consistency too, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With the same owner, Quincy, diapers.com, went with diapers, and exactly it, right? Went with diapers. That was their loss leader, got customers in. So amazing. Really good insights. So let's talk a little bit about the topic we're talking about today, which is PMax versus Google Shopping. Tell us a little bit about, what's the differences, and why should a brand care about this right now in 2023 as we're about to enter Q2?
Yeah. So, so this is a very good topic, but I want to like backtrack a little bit and say PMax is Google Shopping, but it falls under like that automated like umbrella that Google is really, to be honest with you, they're really shoving it down everyone's throat, right? And I understand why, because it is like it's kind of like a all in one box solution for someone who just comes on the scene and they're like, hey, I have a brand, I want to launch it as fast as possible. I don't want to spend $1 million. Can I try this with a limited, like budget? And to be honest with you, I've seen some good success stories using PMax. And here's some industry insight. Like, it's not, so from what I've seen, when it comes to like retailers where they have multiple brands, PMax it falls short, because I've seen the conversion between a very well refined campaign, and some of them are using Smart, right? But Smart they forced everyone into Performance Max when that there was like a time shift from Smart to Performance Max or PMax. I've seen both sides. So I've seen some retailers with a lot of brands switch over, and then all their metrics just tanked, right?
Oh, wow.
And that's because they were really dialed in. Like, they had tons of brands that were like, it was optimized to the best of everything. So they had manual search campaigns, manual automated bids, but manual search, manual shopping, manual display, and even video, all manually done. And then they wanted to try PMax, so we're like, okay, cool. And then we pushed it in. All the performance tanked. It took a very long time to bring it back, right? But this was, for that particular client, it was because they wanted. Google was really to talk about it, and they were spreading they were just like really pushing PMax. So they wanted to implement it. They told me, and I said, okay, if you want to do it, that's fine. But there's going to be some fallout. They said, okay, we'll deal with it. They're still my client, so
so you're dealing with it.
Yeah. When it comes to one-off brands, so this same client has a brand that is pretty big. Like they're pretty big in the foot, I guess, podiatry field, right? And it's one brand name because I feel like PMax is good for if brands want to really hone in on that one specific brand or category of that brand, then it's fine. So like if we were to split it up for brands, it's from my experience, brands is more successful. For retailers with multiple brands, not as successful. But still, like it really depends on like a lot of factors as well, like for like industry saturation and all that good stuff. But that is my like 3,000 foot view. Someone breaking into Google Ads right now, I would say like go for it. Use PMax. I believe like there's a $300 or $500 credit if you spend X amount of money that Google will just give to you, for free, right? Try it out. If it works, that's great. Like, all the more power to you. The hard part is, so now actually, let me backtrack a little bit. PMax is Google Shopping. What Google Shopping is, it's like the legacy term for all of Google, right? Where you see like kind of like images instead of just text. That's Google Shopping, right? Google Shopping is, I remember back in the day when it was called Frugal, right? It was
Frugal.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's the name of like that program, like the beta, like back in the day. It was like revolutionary to like Google PPC because it basically took like three search ad placements or text ad placements, and then it basically made it into like 10 more placements just right off the bat, right? So 10 different advertisers can now occupy all these different spots, which is great. That's more opportunity for us because, so for example, like when I was doing electronics, like I was selling like, let's say, Oral-B toothbrushes, electric toothbrushes. It would be Oral-B, then it would be like Walmart, then Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it was only search, that's it. Like you can't outbid them, right? Like it's just not possible. Like they have unlimited budgets. But then as soon as now, even with the cheaper price. So even if you want to do right by the customer and give them a cheaper price, then Walmart, even the manufacturer, and Amazon, you won't even have the presence. But when Google Shopping came on board, now you do. Like there's all these extra placements that you could have, and they're open for competitors outside of those big three. So that's Google Shopping in a nutshell. PMax is the automated solution that Google created that encapsulates all of their advertising products. So Google Shopping, Google Search, Display, all in one shot, and it's basically automated 100%. So it's outside of basically two levers, which is like budget and probably like your target ROAS or target acquisition. I'm not sure if that's the case, but target ROAS, let's say for sure. They will basically look at all of the placements that they have and then fit you in any of those placements. Now the problem is, and then that's the great part. So let me get to the positive of PMax. Very easy, right? It's not.
Simple.
Very simple. Very simple. So they give you the exact steps. Here, you need images here. You need some text here. You need some description here. You need a feed. If they'll give you. It's very easy. They'll give you all the steps. You give them money, and then you just wait for leads, right? Or conversions. The hard part is there are segments that are very important. Or now I guess the con is there are how would I say, there are KPIs within Google that like you need those to know how to optimize to the next level, right? And then PMax does it automatically, but here's an analogy that I like to use. You're asking your electric company, right, how to use their electricity, right? They're selling you electricity, right? So they're just gonna be like, just use it. A lot of them right now nowadays they're like, hey, save energy, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like you're asking the person who's selling you the product how to better use the product, which makes sense in a way, but their objective is for you to use the product even more, right? So it's to spend more money on it. So it's not entirely kosher.
Kosher, good word. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
not entirely objective.
Exactly. So it's a weird thing where, yes, I'm using your platform, but if you're going to tell me tips of how to use your platform, but your main objective is for me to use more money on your platform, right? So it's like it's a catch-22. But anyways, Performance Max is very invasive. So like it basically doesn't allow anything to compete with it. So anything manual that you launch with Performance Max will always take precedent outside of exact match search. But they did that for a reason, because exact match search is very low volume, right? Like you can't really scale with exact match search. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with very few KPIs to know what you're actually doing on Google. From the top level down, where you're like, hey, I'm making, and it's going to give you all the KPIs. I'm spending $500, but I made $5,000, right? But where did that money come from? Like where? Mm-hmm. Tell me where. How am I going to connect this money, right? I could associate it with the product, because I have my CRM in the background saying, hey, this is what they bought. This is where they came from. You could associate that. That's fairly easy. But on the platform itself, like what are the search terms you're going after? Like those are all when you're using PPC, it's really about search terms, right? So they're omitting all that data to you for the simple convenience of, well, simplicity. It gets really hard to take your account to the next level, where now, as I said before, everyone's throwing grenades. We have to use a sniper rifle, right? We have to get in. We have to find out what's working for you, hone in on that, find the next thing, and then really be masters of that field within that category. Can't do that when you don't have the metrics behind it, right? So it's the toss-up. I would say, like, when it comes to PMax, it's good to start it out, but in the long term, like, you really want to go manual, because that's the way, like, you're going to get the full value of Google. The problem is also another segue, but another thing is, once you're trying to transfer from PMax to like manual campaigns, it's basically like starting all over, because PMax does not give you any information, right, to kind of like jumpstart your next manual campaigns. Whereas if you started from manual, you have all that data, you have all the search terms, you have all the products, you have everything you have all the KPIs, all with their respective like information, all in one platform. So it's way easier to do it that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
that's huge. That seems like PMax is a great starting point, for those that want to get their feet wet. But then in order to get to the next level, in order to scale up to knowing what's working, refine the ROAS, refine the return, refine the search terms. You probably need to have it more manual, it seems, which is important, very important for customers, for brands to know this. So PMax seems to be along the lines of, I know it's a buzzword right now, AI and machine learning, if I'm not mistaken, for the most part. So, in terms of machine learning, it seems like that's impacting most of Google Shopping, or really PMax, when you're using it, right? That's kind of so is it simply right now very cool to use PMax?
To answer this question, we kind of have to like dive into what Google might be thinking. So they're definitely like doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on PMax, because that's the only thing they're working on, right? So every innovation that comes out is all associated with PMax. It's not associated with manual, right? So it looks like, I mean, maybe down the line they're going to deprecate like manual, but who knows? Nobody knows, right? But there's a lot of stuff within PMax that is very interesting. Yes, and AI, machine learning, that is the buzzword, right?
Right.
And honestly, it probably is the future too. But it's really about like, when everyone zigs, right? They're the people who zag. They're going to make the most. They're going to make the most of that time, right? Because that's just how it is, right? So I mean, I would say using machine learning and AI like to help anybody, like any retailer, any brand, do better. That's awesome, and I fully support that. Yeah, I feel like though that if anything, like we should find the in between where we can use the machine learning, we can use the AI, but it's not a silver bullet, right? Not all the time. So to find that in between and combination of both, that's probably everyone's salvation, to be quite honest with you. So.
Oh yeah, I imagine that. That makes a ton of sense. Curious, from the top brands, the top 1%, are they using a combination of manual and PMax? Are they using just manual? Are they using PMax only? What's that next level?
Yeah, so it depends. So I know a few, like let's say of the top 10 retailers, there are, I would say like a third, it's very mixed. So a third of them, they went full force in, and they're automating everything. And some of them are in-house. Another third of them, they're using agencies. And agencies, like, no matter, like, a lot of them have their customized touch, but it's also on the agency to kind of automate a lot, right? Because it's just easier, and it's less strenuous on their just logistics, right? So with that, I would say even on the agency side, I would say like half of them are probably fully automating. So, of the full pie right now, of the top 10 retailers, probably 50% of them are just basically fully automating everything, total machine learning. And it makes sense when you go from a scale of, I mean, we're talking about like 10 SKUs, right? From let's say a small retailer. They are a multinational, multi-conglomerate, all of them, right? All the top 10. And they have millions of SKUs, if not hundreds of millions of SKUs if you add variations. Oh, yeah. So automation makes sense for them, and it takes the load off of their internal people if they just basically throw that like, I guess, brain work to Google, right? But like I said, like, they have the power and budget to just do that. Like, they could just go, hey, here, let's add an API and let's just do this directly, right? They could easily do that. Okay, so now we're left with the last 33, right? Or 33.4. I would say they're doing like a hybrid of manual and automated, only because like they so when I'm looking at the landscape on certain products, they're not behaving the same way as they would if there were just PMax, or if it was all just smart. They're kind of I could see that there is a level of manual because there's certain positions that they shouldn't be having, but they have it. So it's weird. So, and that's the only way I know. But again, like I don't have access to all of the top 10 um, retailers. This is my hypothesis. So I would say like the top for the machine learning, the top 32% that have really honed in on machine learning. I'm 100% certain on them. 100%.
That's amazing. That's huge. Yeah, that's good to know that the top brands are also kind of, have a blend, but also focus on, they have that grenade, as you said, versus a sniper rifle. So the small guys need to kind of a little more surgical about it and a little more scientific and data driven. So fantastic to see that. So let's go a little bit deeper now in terms of PMax versus, Google Shopping, or in terms of just, manual versus machine learning. One of our core values at High Flyer Digital is the flywheel effect, right? There's a lot of you have customers, you get them, you nurture them into advocates, you turn those advocates into referrals and get them to attract more of their friends and send it back out to Google ads, versus a lot of brands tend to focus on using ads to get that one-time customer, and they don't realize that according to McKinsey, 74% of them are one and done. They're one and done buyers. It's a challenge for a lot of brands out there, especially when they're trying to maximize their return on investment. So how do you approach that? What would you recommend to the small brand out there that's trying to get that customer to be a lifetime customer, to be with them the long term? We just were on a call, right, with someone with a brand who was talking about, there's a lot of competition out there for my brand. It's six years ago, it was so much easier. Nowadays, it's hard to get that customer to keep being loyal. I'm getting outspent here and outbid here. What would you recommend to the brand from an acquisition side to turn that customer into a lifetime customer? From the ad perspective.
Yeah, McKinsey is spot on. I feel like especially with Amazon, like it kind of like started the dilution of like real branding. But here's the thing, with the dilution happened from like, I feel like the top down. So the big brands, they can't hold that position anymore, right? But it always leaves opportunity for smaller brands to kick up, right? That's what I think, because and we're kind of like, we have to play on that. We have to play off of that first. But overall, with PPC, it's really about just getting as many eyeballs on your product and your brand after they have any remote interaction with the brand in the first place, because the cost of acquisition for the first person or the first time is always going to be the highest, right? So now once we have we put remarketing campaigns in place, we put remarketing for display, remarketing, all these remarketing audiences, we could retarget them and be a little bit more efficient, because we know that they have an interest in what you're selling, right? So they are now, if we're looking at it in terms of like a filter, throughout the whole web, we don't know who our customer is going to be. We don't know if it's going to be, let's say we're selling a golf ball, right? We don't know if it's going to be a gentleman in his 40s who, he tees off every day, right? Or you don't know if it's going to be his wife or his grandmother or his mother who wants to buy it for him for a present, right? We don't know. Like we make assumptions based off of like what it is, but we don't know. So, what we can know after that first interaction is they are interested, and they're interested in your product because they clicked on something, allowed them to come to you, and it's most likely PPC, right? And in this scenario. Now from there, now that you filtered them and know that they are a person with interest, you put a little bit more juice into them, right? And then you say like, all right, let's go and acquire people who are like this, and that's how you build audiences within Google, right? Outside of that, I feel like nowadays, and this goes back to what I said before, and I guess you're allowing me to elaborate. You disrupt the market by throwing as many pebbles, right? Once you start formulating this audience of who this person is, you could either go after people like that, or now you also have the ability to acquire them through other channels, right? So really, when it comes to PPC, it's about eyeballs, like just getting your product in front of them as much as you can, and being there, trying to be there at the right place at the right time, and also, also with the caveat of the right demographic, right, right audience. But if you could do that across and be kind of like omnipresent across like email, Facebook, um, all these other channels, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn. Not all of them are good for PPC, just letting you know. But it's just, I'm just kind of stressing that point of just being there at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
When it comes to loyalty, now brand loyalty, that's what we're talking about. You have to develop a story around your brand that in tunes with that the customer is in tune with, right? So something that will keep them we could re-engage with them using email. And email is so cheap as like a communication method, SMS. But it's really about just trying to be with a product of their life. And also when it comes to appealing to them to that next level, Mercedes does this the best, right? It's the left side, right side of your brain. Left side is basically just information. So you're reading, okay, I want a golf ball, right? You could read that text. But the right side it plays off of that feeling of your backstroke, right? Mercedes does this very well, where all they talk when their commercials, all they show you is like a car racing down this windy road, right? It affects you because you know that feeling. You want that feeling. You're like, oh wow, like how smooth would this car be going? How awesome would it be going down this road very fast in like this crisp, like German engineered, machine, right? So that's what we, in terms of like the approach, that's what we have to kind of like position ourselves to do, like hit them on the limbic level, on the limbic level, like just like mesh like the strategies with their feelings. And then that's the approach. In terms of long term, like be a product that they could just open their cabinet or whatever and have to constantly use. That's yep.
Yeah. No, that's really important, and that's definitely how you get that kind of lifetime customer. It comes to summarize. It seems like it comes down to like getting the awareness, be omnipresent, and then using multiple channels, omni-channel, multi-channel approach to close the deal, and hopefully that will get them to keep coming back. And that's so important. Omni-channel is an area where a lot of brands fall down, especially the small brands where they have a tight budget. So it's interesting because it's a good segue into this. This podcast talks about the 80-20 principle. Pareto Principle, 80-20, 20% of your efforts yield 80% of your results. And in many e-commerce brands' stories, that comes down to 20% of your customers are generating about 80% of your revenue, or around that ratio, right? You have your best customers, your most loyal, your diehard fans, and they're buying the most from you. And we all want to get the rest of the customer population into that 20% and grow with them, grow their value. What are some strategies you're using after that 20%, that high value customer, that 3-time buyer, that 10-time buyer, that VIP? What are some strategies you're using to take that data and use it to find more people like them?
Yeah, like it's actually that. Like there are, Google in itself is such a powerful tool, right? Like it has so much information that it could yield to you. If you go into audiences and demographics, you could see who your customer niche is, especially within Google Ads. Well, Google Analytics too, but let's just focus in on Google Ads. You could see it right off the bat, right? And on top of that, you could create audiences that match whichever demographic you're looking at. You could pull data from any other source and import it into Google and do the same. But usually you're using like a different source, so you kind of have to like play with it a little bit to see why that is. But even within Google's native audience creation, you segment the audience that you want, and then you create similar audiences to that, right? So it's Google's. We're using Google's native tool to create audiences. And then now we're basically telling Google like, hey, look, these, and then it has to be like 1,000 people anyway. So let's say these 10,000 people are people that I think are my best customers, right? Now take whatever you think is the most important piece from across all of them, and now create an audience for me that kind of matches that demographic. When you look at it manually, I mean, there are some very stark differences. So, for example, like, like men's shavers, right? Predominantly is going to be men, right? Like that's just
You think,
that's
right?
predominantly. So it's going to take that simple point, but it's also going to take what income. It's going to take hobbies, take interests. It's going to take all those different touch points that they all have in common, and it's now going to it's going to create. It actually, in essence, it makes a pebble, right? And now they're going to throw that pebble, and then they're going to see where it lands, see how far it ripples, and they're going to go, okay, that resonated with certain people, and then that is your similar audience. So now you basically take your baseline, expand it out, and then now you reiterate like that might yield certain people again. You keep going and you keep going and you keep going. Like you just really hone in on what you do best, right? So
Yeah, that's so important. And it seems like again, like there's this in some cases there's a disconnect between the acquisition side and the retention side, but yet ironically they're supposed to be playing really well together, right? And you and I both know some, when we came from the top 1%, we're working there, I it's funny because I remember we actually sat pretty next to each other, pretty close to each other. I may have talked to you maybe a few times in that time when I came to visit the client in the office. And, it was like, there's a disconnect. Why isn't acquisition talking to retention? Why isn't retention talking to acquisition? Why aren't they doing that? So, there's just some magic behind getting that flywheel effect, right?
yeah, I tried to talk to you as much as I could, but everyone's so busy, So it's like
Everyone's busy, right?
yeah, exactly. Like yeah, that's what happens when you're even within any company, right? Whether it be through consulting or even if if you're doing the 9 to 5, if you're good at what you do, like you're always busy. So but
Like
yeah,
George Costanza.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Like George Costanza, right?
Yeah, yeah. I tried to talk to you as much as I could, like
For sure.
it's very, yeah, because it's a different piece that like definitely just like, and on top of that, if you're in the office, like I tend to have the best ideas, just like soundboarding off people.
So important. So important. That's why I think it's really great to break down silos in companies and really just embrace the idea of a holistic journey for every customer that turns them from a non-buyer or really a visitor into a one-time buyer and then into a lifetime buyer. You got to have that journey built out. Pat, going along in a different tangent, I know we're talking about paid media for the most part. Buzzword right now, TikTok ads. And you mentioned Pinterest before. TikTok is talking a little bit. Everyone has that buzzword of going to TikTok right now, maybe a deeper acquisition play. So, in your opinion, considering again 80-20, if a brand has $100 and they need to spend that money and they want to get the max value from it, should they go to TikTok? Should they go to Google? What does that media mix look like to you, from your expert opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really depends on what they're doing, like and like actually, it really depends on how they started too. I guess those are the two components. Like, what's your actual product? Like, if it's if we're assuming that it's ecom and it's an actual physical product, you might probably have the most success doing Amazon PPC ads, right? Depending on the price, depending on the niche. And for that $100, I would say that is, and if you're not doing it already, that's probably the best place, because Amazon, it's fast money, and everyone is there to buy, right? When it comes to TikTok, again, it really depends on what your efforts are around that product or that service, right? So if we're talking about, if it's a service, I don't know, let's say, for example, and this is, I just throwing this out there, you are, I don't know why this, if you're a service, and I think it's because I read this on Reddit, if you're a service where you get beat up for money, right? So let's say, let's say for example, someone calls you, and then like you throw out an ad that says like, hey, I will make you look macho in front of your girlfriend or your potential girlfriend or your girlfriend, right? And I'll be obnoxious to you, and you could beat me up, right, for money, right, or whatever. Right? So I saw this on
Wow.
Reddit.
There is no Fight Club.
Yeah, exactly. That would go viral on TikTok, right? Because like even if it's a joke, like because you have the organic content, which is, I mean, if anything, you playing to be beaten up, and then now you take that, you slice it up, you create like a wonderful, a short on it, throw some images, throw some text there saying like, hey, this is my service. That would go viral, right? Like it's an easy service that probably would go very well with TikTok, right? Although it's very limited based off location, so like, like it's not a great example. But it's really like something like that. Like if you have something that is if you're looking for something that just you need eyeballs, TikTok is a great source. And also if you want like brand recognition, because I would assume that there are certain younger generations that they would be impressed if you had like if an older brand you had like even a promoted, even though no one likes promoted on those when you're streaming and you're just like you just want to look through the content, no one likes to see a promo. But I would say it would hit a note in the back of people's mind, like, oh, okay, like Oral-B, they're like up with the times, right? They're on TikTok, right? Especially if they had a great ad. Brand recognition, great. When it comes to actual like return on investment, TikTok is tough. I've done it. I've tried. It's not a great platform for measured, like really measured results. Like I said, for exposure, it's wonderful. Like there's a lot of young demographic, and TikTok keeps continuing to grow. So there's a lot of people on there. When it comes to if we're doing that sniper rifle approach, where we're being very calculated, very analytical, TikTok is tough. It's very tough.
Wow. Yeah. So it seems like the best bang for your dollar would probably be if you're on Amazon PPC, people in shopping mode, raised hands, ready to go. And if you're not on Amazon, I guess you're assuming that pretty much Google Shopping still the king for driving conversions pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean there are also alternatives, right? So there's like Facebook Marketplace, right, which is free, right? Like if you're trying to sell a product or a service, leave no stone unturned. Like just go after anything that is available. I would say Google is when it comes to product and service, Google is still king. Product and service, especially like, I mean, the equivalent of certain service industries for Amazon is like Angie's, right? Angie's, why am I blanking? Like Upwork, right? Those are service. Mm-hmm. They're basically selling services, right? I would say those are amazing too, because everyone is it's about the mentality. Everyone is in the mood to shop in Amazon. Everyone is in the mood they're already in the mentality to hire someone when they go to those kind of sites. Yep. So those are your lowest hanging fruit. Even like Yelp. Yeah, Yelp they're already looking for a restaurant or I don't know, a plumber, right? They're already in the looking mood. So like to invest in that low hanging fruit, those leads first that's the best bang for your buck. And then go to Google. Like those, but Google, you're owning that whole journey. So you're cutting out the middleman of Angie's, of Yelp, right? Like you're like, I don't care about like your service. You cut them out, you go directly to the source. So there's merits in that, but it's a little bit more friction. So it needs time to set up. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Huge. That's great. That's good to see that that ROI is still there. It's really fantastic. It's powerful. But of course, branding, from a branding perspective, you got to be, like you said before, omnipresent. And interesting to see TikTok has more of a branding impact. So final question. So if I'm a brand, if I'm an e-commerce brand right now, and I'm ending Q1, and I want to make sure I had some good numbers for Q1, or I at least have the data, what would you recommend to a brand to kind of look at from their experience in Google Shopping or PMax for Q1? And what would you recommend what steps would you recommend they take for the rest of the year to maximize their investment on Google?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I think the first thing, I mean, it's about really like dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, right? So go into Merchant Center. If you go into the, I don't know, I'm blanking on the name. I'm so bad with names. Hold on one second. There we go. If you go, I think it's the promotional tab or marketing tab. There you go, the marketing tab. And you go into the product or, the growth tab. And you go into opportunities, price competitiveness, best sellers, managed programs, and shopping experience scorecard. So there's like all this stuff that like is overlooked because everyone's usually in the platform. So within, for this Google Shopping in particular, there's Google Ads, and then there's Google Merchant Center. Google Merchant Center is basically like where they house your data, so your feeds, but it's also like Google's way of like policing what goes onto Google, because the feed is, I mean, they could disapprove items in the feed. They could do all this. They could do a lot of policing there. A lot of people go on Google Ads because, I mean, that's where they physically are spending the money, right? That's where they allocate the budget. That's where they allocate the bids. But if you go to the Google Merchant Center, there are, especially if you go to managed programs, there are, I'm looking at nine different programs that you could add to your Merchant Center that will probably bring it to the next level. So for example, free product listings, right? So this is free traffic that you could, when you upload a feed or if you activate it, you just get free traffic, and it's, I mean, the story around this is probably, it's a long story around this, but like, it's something that you could just opt into. And it's 100% free. It's free to opt in, free traffic coming in, right? There's Buy on Google, which is Google Shopping Actions back in the day that they kind of moved into Google, I guess Google Shop. Maybe it's called Google Shop now, but it's basically their Google's marketplace. So it's what they created to compete with Amazon, but they utterly failed. And I'll tell you next time I can tell you a story about that. They were just subsidizing a lot of this like discounts, which I don't know why they were doing that. Probably to get the platform kicked off. This is where you could do dynamic remarketing. You could opt in for dynamic remarketing. This is where you could opt in for free local product listings, local inventory ads, promotions, product ratings, customer reviews. Like there's all this stuff that is just, it's readily available from Google through Merchant Center. So definitely do that. Like, and I said, it's really all about dotting the I's, crossing the T's. Going into Q2, I mean, you could really drill down on your data. Like data is the most important. And I would say like, if you haven't have substantial data and you aren't using it, it's very wasteful, right? Like you're spending money to acquire this data and you're not using it to its full ability. I would say like, contact me, contact Isaac, right? And we could definitely, get that remedied for you. Google, yeah, I mean, what else? I would say like ramp up. Another last thing to note is, I mean, we're getting the trends, right? We're getting that Amazon and Walmart, these big retailers, when it comes to like a product-based, company, if you're an e-commerce company, Amazon and Walmart, they're going to disrupt the market. Like it's just how it is. Whenever they come in prior to Q4, and it generally is right in the beginning of Q3, they start ramping up, and then they have a steep decline, and they just go away, right? Around like the end of Q4 or early Q1. I think right now is the time where, if you have the product that can kind of like take up as much market share as possible, do it now. Like, gain data and just, it's going to happen. All your CPCs are going to start going on the rise in Q3, Q4 especially. Start like shifting. Especially if you have the product that could actually do it, start shifting your competitiveness towards that season, and just keep ramping up. Gain more data, gain more customers. Look for a long-term acquisition, lifetime value, and that's that.
That's huge. I think that was a great takeaway at the end. Good insight from the top brands, and they all start coming on at the beginning of Q3 and ramp up and then go away. And that's where a lot of brands just start. They start at Q4 like, hey, we need to hire an agency to do this and get ready, but they're already behind at that point. So that's a great takeaway. Yeah. So pretty much look at your data from Q1. You have enough now. It's been 90 days, right? Start tapping into that data, refining, testing, cutting off that sliver, surgical, sniper rifle approach, right, in Q2, and then start ramping it up in Q3. That's why it's so important to start now. So this has been very helpful. I think that those insights from the top 1% are always great to see. I think a lot of brands, agencies out there don't offer enough from what the top brands are doing and bringing those strategies to the small guys. So really helpful that you're sharing this, Aron. And really want to thank you for being here. Any final words, anything else to kind of send off a brand on a positive note for their acquisition, on how to attract more visitors and convert them to customers?
Positive note. Yeah, let's just
You want to be a net positive, right? Is that your line?
I do. There you go. Yeah,
I know.
Just keep pushing on. Like, I think there is. Right now, the hustle culture is kind of getting attacked, but like, it's not really about like pushing yourself to like crazy limits. And please, by all means, do that if that's what you want to do. But it's really about consistency. Like in all things, if you have enough consistency, you're gonna find and greatness is consistency with opportunity, right? So as long as you're consistent enough where you place yourself in the right place to have that opportunity and to seize it, that's where you're going to achieve, right? And it's really about consistency. I would say if there's something that, if you're depressed and you're doing this, don't be consistent in it. Like, find something else, right? But if there's something that you enjoy and it's giving you a small modicum of either like happiness or success or whatnot, keep at it. Like, you'll get there eventually, right? And that's really it. And if anyone needs any help, like, Namster Marketing is available. You could go to my site, namstermarketing.com, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Amazing. Yeah, very helpful. So thank you so much, Aron, for being here. Really appreciate the insights you have. Again, we're both on a mission to help the small guy compete to win with the top dogs, with the, bring up the underdog. That's our mission. And as a final send off, I want to always remind you again, go to highflyerdigital.com/playbook, get a free copy of the Ultimate E-commerce SMS Playbook. And if you want to reach out to Aron, definitely go to namstermarketing.com. You can also reach me at isaac@highflyerdigital.com. I will put you in touch with Aron himself. He is a great resource. Hopefully we're both a great resource for the brands out there looking to get to the next level. So together, well, we're even better, right? We're like the Avengers almost.
Sure.
So thank you very much for being here. I hope you learned a lot on the Ecom 8020 podcast. We will see you on the next one. Have a great week. Hopefully it's a profitable week. Thanks for listening to the Ecom 8020 podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe and follow us on social at Highflyer Digital for daily tips and videos. To put this week's strategy into action and move your brand forward, go to highflyerdigital.com/book and schedule a free 15-minute chat with our experts. If you book today, you'll even get a free digital copy of our 330-page email and SMS playbook to get you started. Let's partner together to compete and win at e-commerce. Your brand is worth it. Until next week, this is Isaac Hyman, wishing you a successful and profitable week.